Welcome to the Motherfucking Scandal Podcast.
Welcome to Motherfucking Scandal. I am your scandal lover girl, Ayla, and
I'm your scandal lover girl, Olivia.
we are here to do our scandal rewatch. Tell us a little bit about this scandal rewatch,
So we decided that you can never have too many scandal rewatches. I mean,
Hugs.
do we need to explain? It's motherfucking scandal.
Scandal. And this
So
has been in the making for like 10 months, 11 months? It was really early into our friendship, like really early.
Yeah.
And it was because I sent you a scandal video that will remain unnamed because it will come out later.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, wait, are you? And I was like, yes. Are you?
Are you? Yes.
Another 8,000 million bond just kind of just
it's like the Bears, like
boop, 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 boop. Okay, so we are going to go through our impressions of the first episode, Sweet Baby.
Okay, so I want to say, watching it again, because it's not like it's the first time I've rewatched it, but I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I love this show.
Right? The theme, the second the theme hit, she's running across the street.
It just, their interaction, we just got right into it. They were like, it warmed up. We didn't have to get the gist of the show. Like immediately I was right there. Like,
yep,
I'm here for whatever.
Yep, that's exactly what I said. I can't stay. That tension of her trying to leave and him trying to talk to her, but he's like talking, and the dialogue is just moving so fast. I'm like, yes, no.
The energy. Chef's kiss.
Absolutely. And then there was this moment where Harrison was talking and he bit his lip, and I was just like, I just got fucking flirt with me, sir.
So yeah, I was like, I remember it well.
It's like putting on a really worn but really comfortable pair of panties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You gotta roll them up a little bit, but they still fit.
Not the warm and comfortable grannies.
Grannies. Like the band is all worn out. It's okay. You can't quit them. You can't quit them.
Oh my god. And then when he said gladiator in a suit, I was
like, he said, "Say it with me, bitch. I want to be a gladiator in a suit."
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. Quinn Perkins, baby.
Yeah.
Whew. Huck had what? Like, he had his little monologue in the bathroom, but he had that like one line when they walked into the office where he was just like, he used to work in the CIA. He's like, I don't talk about that. Like, oh. But boy, I fucks with Steven. Like, I still wonder what the show would have looked like if Steven had been in it the entire time, because he was just a ride or die for her.
Yeah.
A ride or die for her, and that's my dude.
Yeah, but you know what though? She couldn't have that because we needed to not have that.
You know? Because if she didn't have that voice of reason, would she have still made the same choices that she made later on in the show? Because we know that Abby is absolutely not that voice of reason.
Speaking of, well, I don't want to jump ahead, but I have
okay. All right. So Steven, we talked about. One thing I wanted to, well, that's something that's we're going to talk about probably the whole time, but the mirror shots. I like how in the first episode they're really subtle, because as you go through the series, sometimes they get a little bit overbearing. But in the pilot episode, I think they did a really good job of the way that they shot it with the cinematography. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, cinematography is it's like perfect. I mean, I've never seen a better first episode of anything. I don't think I can't. That like kind of hooks you, and you realize how good it is. You're like, no, this is really good. Oh shit.
Yep, because you have all of these really fleshed out characters. The only characters you don't really see fleshed out very well are Melly and Cyrus, right?
But I feel like you do with Cyrus.
That's fair.
It's all in his expressions. He's silent, but he intimates a lot. You know? And I mean, we don't have to go in order, right? My favorite part was when she said at the end that she was representing Amanda.
Yes.
And looked at her like, and in my mind, I was like, I wonder if he could tell everything. Like, it was almost like he could see the future, and he knew the run were about to go on because of the relationship. Like,
absolutely.
He knew in that moment, oh man, it's about to get real.
But like, okay, going back to Abby really quick before we go into the whole Amanda of the situation. I didn't realize that Abby was a judgy jerk from the very beginning. Like, I just thought that was something that her character kind of morphed into as the series progressed. But she was an asshole from the jump. And I'm just like,
pretty much. Like, and did you see when she broke the fourth wall at the end? I was like, that's so funny.
Oh.
At the very end, when Steven had his arm around her.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just like, and then she looked at the camera like,
yep.
I was like, Abby, that's so funny.
That's so funny. And then one thing I did want to mention too is when they're in the office, she's talking about how the FBI is sick of me when she brings when they bring the baby to the ambassador. I'm curious how much they were able to do at Pope and Associates in the time between when she quit the White House and when we see them in the first episode, because she had to have done a lot of like really monumental, huge things in those, like, that probably maybe year, right? Because they haven't been in the White House very long, but she was still doing some work while, you know, the inauguration and all that stuff was going on. So I'm curious to see all the stuff that we kind of missed to get her this reputation for chaos.
True. I mean, I feel like nepotism played a role for her. You know what I'm saying? It helps when your daddy is who your daddy is, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And she was, you know, she swam in all the right circles. And she, you know, always social climbed a little bit with the people that she was dating, which, I mean,
I'm not mad at it. Are you? I'm not mad at it.
Not really. It's interesting because is it social climbing if her dad is who he is, right? Like, if she's born into these circles and she goes to all these like special events and stuff, like, that's her world. She's not kind of climbing into it. That's just where she was living.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they're older, but I mean, who doesn't love an older man? Speaking of the older man, the fucking audacity to ask your ex to scare and intimidate your replacement mistress is otherworldly.
So hindsight is an interesting thing, right? Because the nuances that I picked up on watching it now, after knowing everything that happens between them, immediately I was like, immediately. Where in the beginning I was just like,
the poor little puppy. Nah, that's a grown ass man.
He looked in the camera. She said, he looked her in her face. He looked her right in her eyes and lied to her with that smirk. But then when you see, and I like the way they did it. I like the way that you have to like pick up on the context of what they
Yes.
mean to each other, right?
Yes.
They didn't take you there, but now you see the way that this powerful, no nonsense woman is cowering in the curtains because she doesn't have the, she thinks she doesn't have the ability to tell him no, right? She has to call on all her ancestors.
Yep, to slap the shit out of him. I would have slapped him twice. They would have had to pull me off of him because ain't no way.
She said slap. We would have been scuffling. Would have been like, what?
Cyrus would have came in. They would have been on the ground wrestling.
She was like, you didn't know? Now, okay, so the fact.
Wait, hold on. Before we go to the Oval Office scene, can we go backwards to the scene in the woods? The tension between them in that scene in the woods, and Cyrus is just so oblivious to it. And I was like, that's so masterfully done. Everything he was saying had this like double entendre, right? Because he was looking her dead in the face and he said, there's only one person I love. And I'm just like, ooh.
Right. And Cyrus is like, yes. And him and Melly, they're working on their relationship. I'm like, Cyrus, it is going right over your head. You are not good.
Right over his head. Absolutely.
Which is interesting because how did he miss it?
How did he miss it? Hold on. So yeah, in the woods when Cyrus is behind them, they just have this like really intense chemistry and it's palpable, right? And the first word that he says of the entire series is Livy. And I think that kind of encompasses his entire character arc, right? Because that's all he's ever been about. Like all this other stuff is just kind of like distraction or fodder because that's his girl. That's what he cares about, and he doesn't care about anybody else.
Right. I just love the dynamic so much. I don't even know what to say.
I know it's so difficult because, like, I wrote down Livy, and I said, "Boy, bye," and then I wrote down, there's only one person I love, and I was like, "Okay, I forgive you." It's so toxic. It's so difficult. But that Olitz tension, baby, there's literally nothing like it. Nothing like I've never like
their
that
history is unmatched.
Unmatched. And I mean, back to the Oval Office scene, the way that you will never be able to convince me that there was not something deeper there. Because look at that man's face. Look at the body language. Look at the chemistry. Like, I know acting is a thing and that it exists. But the way...
Buy her a dog? Did you buy her a dog?
He did buy her a dog. I know he bought her a dog. It's really shitty, but boy, he just wanted her...
baby. Sweet baby. Now, let's question that, though. So, yeah. I feel like sometimes his transgressions get like smoothed over really quick.
Yes.
Without any insight, because in my mind, okay, she left him.
Yes.
So you call someone else the name that you called her? What does one thing have to do with the other? First of all, a young intern?
She was so young and impressionable. And I get, adults make decisions, whatever, but like you can't ignore the pressure that comes with power and influence, right? And then not only that, but the gaslighting on top of that, and the fact that you're making it seem like she is something. You gave the bitch a dog. Like, you gave her a dog. You probably helped her name that dog.
I'm glad you said that, because that's a woman thing. To him, he just gave her a dog. He doesn't, that's not a big deal. It's a dog. Whereas we're thinking, oh, this is something significant. And that's why this girl was in the hospital, right? Talking about she's trying to take herself out of here so he could come visit her. Like, girl, give me a break. Get it together.
Look, I can't. And just the way that Olivia just eviscerated that poor girl. She didn't even see it coming. First of all, I think it's very interesting that she didn't know who Olivia was. And second, for her to just be so completely blindsided. And I wrote it down when she's like talking to him, when she was talking to her and she was like, he gave me this dog. Like she's crying, saying like, this is factual. Like I'm not bullshitting. Like
Right.
this is real. And
I was a little disappointed that Liv was so blinded by her feelings for him that she wasn't listening to her gut at all to be able to sense that this girl was telling the truth.
But I mean, that's such a universal feeling, I think, for women and sometimes for men too, where they're ignoring what their intuition is telling them, what their gut is telling them about this person in this situation, and they're just blindly going ahead on faith. And it's really sad because obviously some people take advantage.
Yeah, but in her position, she can't afford that.
Absolutely can't. Absolutely.
So I feel like that mistake that early on shaped her and shaped her responses going forward. And it's unfortunate that it happened the way it did, but it needed to so that she could see how susceptible she was to him.
Yes, absolutely.
So that she didn't do that shit again.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I noted too was when further into the episode, when Huck says, we're all kind of like the island of misfit toys and it's her job to help us because all of us are broken. She does that because she can't really fix herself, because she knows she has all of these broken pieces of herself that she can't really manage to, glue back together. So it's easier to glue other people's pieces back together. And that's kind of like her whole character. Her whole character's motivation is just to fix things. But I just, it was really tough to watch, especially as like, if we put ourselves in Quinn's shoes, right? And she's watching this entire thing go down, this lady that she's kind of been admiring and wanted to be. And she's just watching her demolish this kid. And she has to learn how to find her voice very early on and say, hey, look, my gut is telling me this is not right. And I think that that's very interesting, because once we start to get a little bit more background on who Quinn is and what her life was like before she went to Pope and Associates, then you start to see that she's already gone through her like metamorphosis, and now she's at the point where she can really find her voice and say the things that she needs to say.
But she came out the gate swinging. I'm proud of her.
She really did. And she looked her dead in the face and was just like, I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to be a dog with a bone. And she made Olivia actually sit there and listen. And then when she listened and heard Sweet Baby, then she was just like, oh, you are fucking playing. Which, by the way, that is a terrible fucking nickname. I know Sweet Baby is probably my least favorite.
Couldn't be for me.
Sweet, but
if I don't even care what we were doing. If somebody called me Sweet Baby, I'd just be like, hold on.
Not the timeout whistle. Well, is it a red card, a yellow card, whichever one? Technical
yellow
foul.
card. What? No, absolutely no, and no again. And then that's such a name, like that's such a sickeningly sweet name to call me that and tell me that I'm special to you, and then turn around and call somebody else that. Boy, I would have been calling Papa Pope like, hey,
look, I know you know all the active dick sites. I got something I need you to bury for me real quick, okay? To play devil's advocate, if he was in his feelings, if he was hurt, he could have been role playing with her. In his brain, he could have been talking to Olivia without recognizing, like, this is Amanda Tanner, this is a young child, this is obviously a Caucasian woman, and, I'm going to call her Sweet Baby, and it's going to make me feel better about the fact that I'm a piece of shit.
If he wasn't the president, if he wasn't who he was, if he wasn't a man of stature, if he was just some like Joe Schmo that, you know what I'm saying, we didn't expect to have any emotional intelligence, then maybe. And that's the part of it that, like, I get it. You know, he was molded, right? And he had a whole team to where he was.
Yep.
But it's like, are you never gonna grow up? Are you never
that fucking part?
Okay, Peter Pan, because what part of him, like, it really makes you think, what kind of person is he really? I understand the need for connection, right? But you claim that your relationship with your wife is lacking. And you're trapped in that, right? We get it. The woman that you're in love with, she says no, she's not doing this with you. Okay. It's like, it's almost like he feels entitled, like he has to have somebody, right? Like, it's just, you left me, so therefore I had to replace you. You can't replace me. You can't replace me. And I feel like that's what he was trying to do. Like, I feel
Absolutely.
like even though you're telling me I'm special and we have something beyond, you still thought that you could find someone else to fill my shoes? How is that even possible?
Exactly. But I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's just this insane sense of entitlement, right? And it goes back to like who he is, how Big Jerry raised him, and what he thinks he deserves, right? And I think that goes down to his breakdown, the breakdown of his marriage with Melly is what he thinks he deserves. Instead of having conversations, instead of, understanding other people's viewpoints, he's very much so a toddler. Like everything is me, me, me. This is what I want. This is what I need. And I am who I am. So do what I say. And it's not a good look at all.
Like, I mean, even if, like, you look at it this way, to say that what he had with her was sacred, right? It was something that transcended everything else in your life.
Yeah.
To take the name that you call her and call someone else is like betrayal. It, as the person doing it, that doesn't even feel like, that shouldn't feel good. That should feel, you feel wrong after that. So the fact that he could just do that all willy-nilly, it's like, can we please study Fitzgerald Grant a little bit closer? Can we? Yeah. Because I feel like we're missing something about this man, because he's so handsome and they have such great chemistry, and then, they wind up together in the end, but
it's something about, like, I think it's the air that he has, right? Because not only is it that sense of entitlement, but just that take charge energy, which I think is also really a determining part of it, right? Where he is very much so like, I'm going to do this thing because I want to do this thing and you want to do this thing. And if you don't want to admit it to yourself, I'm going to make you admit it, And I think that is really fascinating.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think that's really fascinating. And I think that kind of is what draws people into him as well.
All right. So do you have a favorite scene from this first episode?
Ooh. Oh, you know what? I think I do. So after the Oval Office scene where you see all of her flaws in, 4K, right? She runs to be, Steven's champion, right? She comes to him in the coat closet. She gives him that speech that cheers him up. And then as he's sitting there proposing to that girl, she starts crying in the closet.
She falls apart in the coat closet.
Right. And, earlier in the episode, they kept saying, she doesn't cry, she doesn't cry, she doesn't cry. But I think a lot of people miss the nuance of why that was important. It's like, she never breaks. And in that moment, she broke. And I think contrasting those two scenes directly behind one another was really, really clever, because we got to see her, facade kind of crumbling a little bit. And I think that we needed to see that, because she's always just like so on top of everything that it's like the weight of all of that starts to like kind of get to her.
And not only that, but witnessing someone else experience what you want most.
Yes.
She wants that. She wants that person she wants it with is running around calling other people sweet baby. It's like, I'm surprised she didn't pull all the coats down with her as she fell. I'd have been all dramatic. Like,
Oh man. The one thing that I wrote down is you left me, right? He's just like, you left me. You left me. Like, yeah, I mean, did you expect her to continue to be everything for you while you were still married, while you were running the country, while she had to be a dirty little secret that you met in all like the little catty corners that nobody can see on the cameras? Like, how can you as a human be so entitled to think that somebody else deserves that, especially somebody that you claim to love?
I feel like we established this.
I know, but I'm just thinking that there's extra stuff that goes into it. Now that I'm thinking about it, the more I think about it, the more angry I get. Because how can you do that? Like you can't even have a conversation that you want to have with this woman because there's cameras everywhere. How can you have a relationship? How can you have a relationship when you have a wife and kids? I just don't.
Because his pleasure, right, is important to him, and he's supposed to be important to her. This is like boy math now, right? So my is important to me, and I'm important to you. So you should continue to do things to ensure that I'm always feeling my pleasure, right? Because it would not please me if you leave. Why can't you be happy with this? I'm happy with it. Why can't you be happy with it? And it's like, because the roles are not the same. You are everything to me, and to you, right? I'm these in-between moments.
Yeah.
I'm to help you keep the rest of your life together. But I can't get you whenever I want you, but you want me whenever you want me.
Oh my God, that's so accurate. And it's painful because, she tries her hardest to fall out of that routine. And then, she just backslides because he just pulls her back in, and it's just like, it really is like an addiction. And I think as much as it's fascinating to watch and it's good to feel those emotions, because boy, you fucking feel it. Like he had her against the wall and was whispering, "Look at me," and I was just like, okay.
My eyes shut real tight.
I get it, girl. I would have backslid too. But
here's the thing. People, we all backslide and disregard boundaries. No one, So it's like, in that situation, I don't think he understood how important it was for her to make something of herself.
True.
He's used to women like Melly, right, who are just ready to hitch their wagons
and mold herself to his needs,
right, and benefit from him and whatever. Whereas Olivia, she had a plan for herself, right? Her name was bigger than these feelings that we're having, these inconvenient feelings, by the way, So her pulling away from him, the average woman may not have. She may have, been on that wave for the 4 years or however long he was in office, and just enjoyed it for what it was. Because some people compartmentalize. But him expecting someone who's in love with him to compartmentalize their feelings, again, it's like, you are abusive.
So abusive.
This is abuse.
Like, it's like textbook, like emotional manipulation. Absolutely. Right? With, lots of narcissism in there. But mostly it's just kind of like, you love me, so why won't you meet me the way that I want, like the way that I'm comfortable being met?
I'm glad you said narcissism, because have we all agreed on him being a narcissist, or is this just a me and you type of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, like, think about it, right? The first one.
No, I mean the general population outside of us. Like, is it a general consensus, or is this just us? As
I would hope it is. I hope.
So back to him being a narcissist. Yes. Because, the whole making jam was a big theme.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, he very much believed that that's what she should pick and that's what she should be happy with.
And this is after she's already kind of built OPA. She's got all these people working for her. She's got all these people who are relying on her for their income, who, look up to her. Yes, she has all these clients that, are regulars or whatever that come to her and need advice and need help. And she's just supposed to stop all of that so that she can go and make jam with you in Vermont. Negro, please.
Ah!
Would not be I.
Girl,
Would not be. Even if the dick was so magical that it specifically curved into that every inch.
It wasn't, and there's a 1-word 4-letter reason why we know that it wasn't the dick. But I feel like it was the fairy tale. It was the fact that they were in love. They were in love. Yes. It was nothing more than in the world that they were in, where that is such a fleeting, occurrence because of all these arranged and beneficial parents, that they found true, genuine love. And it's like, wow, are we willing to give up all of this for this? But only one of them was.
Yes. That's so true.
And
that is so true.
And that's why she was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to give it up. Because why should I give it up?
And I think he started to recognize, as the series progresses, that he needed to at least meet her halfway, which I'm glad that he eventually got there. But the fact that he was just so aggressive and adamant that she needed to meet him where he was is just so bonkers. It's so bonkers.
Patriarchy. I'm the president. I'm the MF president. What do you mean?
I'm not, and I think that's another thing that the show is about too, right? It's proximity to power, right? Because the closer that people get to the sun, the more they get blinded by it. And I think you start to see that more and more throughout the series as characters who had, no real connection to the oval, not really, start to kind of move into its orbit, and they just start to drastically change, or some of them like really slowly start to change. And it's really fascinating to watch. So that's something I'm really excited about, because that's always like one of my favorite things, is just to see the little tweaks that the characters have every single time.
Speaking of character tweaks, so subplot, we have this decorated, right, veteran with a secret.
Yeah.
And that secret is basically his get out of jail free card, and he doesn't want to use it. So I know, I tried to remember back to that time period, because I was like, what year was this when this first came out? But
it was 13 years ago.
13.
So I think it was right around like maybe 3 or 4 years after Don't Ask, Don't Tell got repealed. I could be super wrong, but it was still relatively like fresh.
And I thought about it, and I was like, she has these clients, and I know she's really good at what she does, and she's very good at compartmentalizing things, but does she get affected? Is she affected, right? Does watching this man who's so obviously in love with this other man, like that was, again, I feel like all throughout the episode, there were just little mirrors. Like,
yes, absolutely.
You can't run from love.
And that's the thing, is after she has that conversation with him in the Oval, she goes and tells him, if you love him the way that it looks like you loved him in that surveillance footage, like, you owe it to him and you owe it to yourself, right? And that's when he admits, he's like, I do love him, and I think that it's time for me to say my truth out loud, which I think is incredibly brave, especially when it could completely decimate literally everything about your life.
Whole entire life, yeah.
But one thing I did want to say too is I find it really interesting. I don't think that it's happened in any of the other episodes, so I could be wrong as we go through. Well, now, but I don't think that there's ever another episode where the mystery isn't solved at the end. Right? because it just kind of leaves you feeling a little bit unsatisfied to know that the client got off, but we don't know what happened and how it happened, why it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Quinn kind of pointed that out. She's like, so that's it? Like,
yeah.
He's like, our job is done. We're done here. And it was just like, dang, okay. You know, kind of friendly reminder.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't what you think it is. This isn't normal, right? And you better learn how to move in this world or else you're going to get every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But with that being said, in my notes, I was like, God, I would love to work there. Oh,
absolutely. I'm sure it would be insanely stressful, but it would be really rewarding.
I don't even think I would be stressed. I would be, because these are not my problems.
I'm thinking about like the long nights, like sorting through people's garbage, sorting through their like social lives, finding out all these secrets about people. It's like a dirty business, especially once you get a little bit further in and like there's dead bodies and shit involved.
I feel like in my former life I was a research assistant. Like that's I love it. Like that's just my vibe. That is, you know, especially like if you don't have kids, you know, I could do that as a parent, but as a single person of a certain age, like definitely sign me up. I'm in there. Oh, we going to drinks after? I know it's 1 o'clock. Somewhere's got to be open. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, honestly, it's rather interesting how when you think about these spy lies and all these other things that people are doing, it's never people that look like us, but we know in reality that a lot of people that look like us work in some of those espionage circles. So just saying, we would blend in. That's why they hire us.
We think outside the box.
Hey. Speaking of thinking outside the box, I have a hot take. I think that Scandal could have single-handedly solved the divide between the Democrats and the Republicans if Trump hadn't come it hadn't come into the picture. Because if you think about it, a lot of Scandal is centered on Republican politicians. There aren't very many Democrats that you see, that you interact with, that you talk with. And I think that she kind of made them personable and kind of made it a little bit more exciting and interesting to understand their side of the political spectrum in a way that it was difficult to at the time that Scandal was airing, right? Because Scandal was airing around the time that the Tea Party really started to take off. And that's when things kind of started to go off the rails a little bit. And so I feel like even though you had all this crazy chaos going on over here, on this side, you're just like, oh, but they're just like regular humans, just like everybody else. And then, you know, everything went off the rails. So.
But if you think about it, maybe that was the warm-up. That was the red carpet, because now people are like, oh, well, now, you know, I kind of get it and understand. And now you're looking to understand versus being like, this is batshit crazy, right?
Girl. Oh, one thing that I did write down is she was going through it, but she stayed a professional the whole time, minus the Amanda Tanner stuff.
Okay. Yeah, she had her moment. She had the one moment, but she course corrected.
Yep.
And handled it. Handled it. Okay, it's handled. That's what my.
She sure did. It's handled.
Handled, and she was so pretty.
She was so pretty, but one thing that I did note
was the hair.
The hair, the bangs were a lot. But also I was like, this is probably the cheapest outfit Olivia Pope has ever worn in the history of Scandal. And I get that it was the pilot, but I was just like, oh, that's a cute outfit.
Very
her like
limited.
Yep.
Express. Which is
not express,
but not in her position. Not in her position.
Nah, but she, you know, obviously once they got a little bit of budget, they upped her game.
Taylor.
Oh, the little crepes that she be wearing, boy. I hope that Carrie got to keep some of that, because
I would hope so. I mean, who else is it gonna fit?
It fit her like a motherfucking glove. It ain't gonna fit nobody else. Okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1, episode 1. And in this episode, somehow she was able to give you just enough insight into all the characters
Mm-hmm.
to make you understand how this was going to work.
Absolutely, right. So we got the end of one case, and then we got the beginning of another case that kind of just fell into their lap. And then we got an understanding of her connection to the White House. And then we got the side plot of what the president needed to hire her for. And we are pretty much introduced to all of OPA, pretty much everybody in the White House that we, need to like know about. And we get a really good glimpse of why she's good at what she does and how good she is at what she does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so seamless. So seamless. Like as we're sitting there, right? Like so when like for example, when she goes to David Rosen's door and they have that, really, fast-paced conversation, there's
Uh-huh.
so much context about their relationship built into that tiny little conversation.
Right.
And you can tell he has a great deal of respect for her. And they have this repertoire with one another, and they're just like kind of like parrying and jabbing. And then he, respects her enough to, adhere to the deadline that they both agreed upon. And I think that just goes to show not only the influence that she has, but the fact that she just, she is that bitch.
Right. And also they're two lawyers, and lawyers know how to, negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
So only one can be the top dog, and in that instance, she's the top dog. So it's like,
Yeah.
But I do genuinely enjoy her relationships with the individuals that she has that extra level with,
Mm-hmm.
because she's not often vulnerable.
Yes.
So it's like there are certain people that, despite her exterior, they know who she really is. It's
Yeah,
one thing
absolutely.
to, like Quinn, right? Quinn sees her as this powerful, capable, but
Yeah.
Quinn see her the way Cyrus sees her, right?
Yeah.
Or Dave
And,
sees her.
yeah.
Certain people who see her, and
Yeah.
I enjoy relationships with those characters.
Yeah, I think Huck is her dynamic with Huck is probably my favorite because she kind of like rescued him, but at the same time she rescued herself. And I think that that's really fascinating. And the way that his character arc moves with her permission, kind of, and how he just sees her and he knows and he can find all of these areas of her that not everybody else can see. And he's the one who notices some stuff. But I think what's really interesting is Quinn doesn't really understand like who she is. She can only see it as like flaws. She can't see it as like humanity.
Right. Because she idolizes her. And
She does. Yeah.
someone don't see their human qualities. You just see them for what you enjoy and what you like about them and what you admire. And then when you see anything more than that, now you're like, oh, no, not her making a mistake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, don't be a fucking Abby. If there is ever a life lesson to be had in this first episode, and I think throughout this entire season, is don't be an Abby, right? Because I feel like the more I watch Abby, the more I get really frustrated with her character. And I understand that there's, a lot that she's gone through and a lot that goes into why she is who she is. But I also feel like she is just the worst kind of friend and the worst kind of person that doesn't necessarily realize like the lengths that other people have gone through to make sure that they stay afloat. And they have no problem like dragging you down so they don't drown and drowning you both.
Yeah. Or just blowing up your spot that you've worked so hard for. And it's like, oh, self-righteous. She's very self-righteous.
Oh,
but
self-righteous.
But lacking in self-awareness.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating to me that Olivia hired her. Like, I get that that's her friend, that's her boo, she needed help, whatever. But like, to have someone so self-righteous and so opinionated about that self-righteousness in a place where you help people who pay you, regardless of whether they're guilty or not, like, that's weird.
Yeah, but there's certain voices that hold more weight.
Mm.
And that became very apparent.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think even with Abby watching her relationship with Steven,
Mm-hmm.
it was more than just whatever was going on with him. She's watching how he interacts with Liv, and Liv is dropping everything to go be with him, help him, be his cheerleader champion. Not that she wouldn't do it for Abby, but
Mm-hmm.
Abby's the kind of person where in the moment it's like, wow, somebody has something and I don't have that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just very like, I don't know. I'll figure out an adjective for her by next episode. But I was like, I don't remember feeling this way about her initially, but she was getting on my nerves. I was like, you a little annoying, ain't you? Ain't you, redhead?
Yeah. It's a lot.
And I mean, we know where this goes, so I think that has a lot to do.
I think so. I think part of what bothers me the most is the crush on Steven, because not only is it just like really childish, but simultaneously, like, this is a workplace. If you decided to bang this man that one time or whatever, like, and you couldn't figure it out, that's not a everybody problem, that's a you problem. And she just can't keep it to herself, right? She can't, she's not good at masking her emotions at all.
Her middle name might be Karen. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
Everybody's problem. What do you mean?
And then like, going back to that power dynamic I was talking about earlier, watching her get too close to the sun is fucking insane. Because her whole, like, it's like you get like a little sliver of it now, but it just becomes this like massive monster of a personality shift. And it's just, she just doesn't, it's very, I mean, it's inevitable, right? Because as we can see from this first episode, like, that pressure and that, that pressure cooker existed already. But boy, once you start to get towards the end, you just want to throw her off every single cliff that you can find. Because over a cliff, throw her over the cliff, please.
I'm just like, Abby, sit down. Abby, go sit down. Sit down, please.
Mm-hmm.
Have a seat.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, just, reiterating, incredible first episode.
So good. So good. So tight. Everything was succinct. Pretty. Even the CGI wasn't bad. I was expecting the CGI on the first episode to be not great, but it wasn't bad at all. I was like, oh, okay.
No, that shit was tight. That's tight.
Yep. And I didn't even notice that we got that the recurring theme of her meeting him in front of the White House. I didn't realize we got that in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. I love those little coffee dates. They're so cute. Mm-hmm. I love their relationship so much.
I do. I feel like it's really one of the things that made that show.
That's so accurate. Like, love him or hate him, man. Cyrus is it.
They bring each other levity.
Yes.
And they can talk to each other, like, they can praise each other or they can tear each other down to the ground and still come back like, okay.
Yes. Those moments where they're like, it's like mommy and daddy are fighting. Like, it's so fun because you know that neither of them are going to come out on the top, and eventually they're going to find each other in the middle again. And it's a pleasure. I just love them so much. I love them so much.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you are looking forward to in this season?
No, you know what? I'm going into this like really like it's my first time. Like I think ahead. I don't even want to like. I just want to go into every episode. Like, what is this one again? Okay, cool. Right. So no, I'm excited to see from this perspective how everything unfolds.
Yes, I love it.
Well, I feel like episode 1.
All done.
Be sure to join us here at the Motherfucking Scandal podcast. We'll be doing every episode, okay? So you don't want to miss any of it. You should do it with us, okay? If you watched Scandal before and you love it the way we love it, join us, all right? We could talk about this every weekend.
Yes. The scandal is scandalous, okay?
That's it. All right, my lover girl, that's it.
That's it.
All right, see ya.